in chapter 1, it says it's December of 2001. The narrator, who we don't know yet, is recalling an event that happened back in 1975 when he was 12 years old. And the narrator doesn't really specify what happened, but he says that this event essentially changed his life. And then the narrator begins to describe his friend, forgive me if I pronounce this wrong, Rahim Khan? We'll go with that. Who made a phone call to him the previous summer and asked the narrator, who we now learn his name is Amir, to go and see him in Pakistan. And once he gets off the phone, Amir goes for a walk in San Francisco, where he now lives, and he notices a kite flying in the sky, which reminds him of his friend Hassan from his childhood. And so then in chapter 2, we learn about Amir and Hassan's relationship. When they were younger, they were extremely close friends. They played together and did a lot of things together. And we quickly see that within their friendship, Amir is essentially the more kind of dominant leader, while Hassan is the follower, kind of doer, whatever Amir says. And so Amir lives with his father, Baba, in Kabul, and Hassan and his father, Ali, are Baba's servants, and they live in a mud hut on Baba's estate. And so, a little background about Amir. His mother died giving birth to him, and Hassan's mother ran away after having him. So neither Hassan and Amir have a mother, so they can relate to that on that level. So Hassan and his father, Ali, are Hazara and Shia Muslims, while Amir and Baba are Pashtun and Sunni Muslims. And Hassan is often picked on because he is Hazara, because they are a persecuted ethnic group from further east in Asia. So that's about it for chapters 1 and 2.
So the genre is fiction.
Realistic fiction, I guess, maybe?
Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah, fiction.
Kind of
It is
somewhat
realistic.
modern.
Yeah.
Because it's revolving around the conflict that's going on over there.
Mhm.
So.
Yeah.
It's kind of unique because I've never really read a book about the Middle East.
No.
Neither have I.
So-
Yeah.
And we're learning about it right now in comparative religion, so
Yeah,
Mhm.
it's cool.
it's interesting.
Because we just learned about Shia and Sunni.
Yeah, so I understand why they
Mhm.
aren't
Right.
as friendly. So
Yeah.
it makes sense.
And so the point of view is obviously from
It's first person.
first person from Amir.
Yeah, and that's kind of interesting because you kind of get to see, you only see one side of the story. You don't get to see
Yeah.
what Hassan's thinking.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
it's different.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Later on, you definitely want to know what he's thinking.
Yes.
You never can
Mhm.
know.
Yeah. There aren't any really shifts in the point of view. It's always from Amir's point of view, and I don't really know if at this point we can determine whether he's reliable or unreliable. I mean, I think the fact that he's the sole narrator makes him a little unreliable, just because we don't get to see anyone else's point of view. All we have to go off of is his thoughts and things like that.
Yeah, and he's kind of unreliable too because in the later chapters, when we read, we just kind of see his relationship with Hassan or whatever, and how he hasn't always been the best friend that he should have been.
Mhm.
Sometimes he makes decisions that are just for his own benefit and not for Hassan's too.
Mhm.
So that kind of makes him unreliable in that aspect because you don't know if he's really a trustworthy person or not.
Mhm.
I think that both of the characters have ethos in their own way.
Mhm.
Amir kind of has ethos in that he's considered more high up in the
Mhm.
social class, but then Hassan's more of he's more caring and a better person, I would say.
Mhm. Yeah, I think that they both, throughout, as we get further into the story, we both see how the pathos about the characters, you begin to, as a reader, really connect with them. And even though we don't get to see Hassan's own thoughts, we can still connect with him just based off of Amir's relationship with him and his point of view of Hassan.
Obviously, having it set in the Middle East is very different from what we experience,
Mhm.
and then it's by having the conflict between the the Shia and the Sunni Muslims, and then having the two main characters being one and the other it creates more of a conflict than there could be if it was just between two social classes. It gives it another level.
Yeah. Yeah, and for us it's like different too, because I feel like a lot of times we don't really learn that much about like the Middle East, or we just like aren't willing to like always like read about it. We just kind of learn about things that pertain to like the United States. So it was cool to see like all the things that go on, and it put things in like perspective, I think, for the readers especially.
Yeah, I agree with that, because like when we tend to learn about the Middle East, it's more so about like the tragedy and the warfare going on over there. But this, while it takes place in the same the Middle East, it's very relatable because it's focused on like a friendship, which I mean can cross any ethnicity or race or country.
So in chapter 3, we learn more about Baba and how he's kind of viewed among everyone in their town. So how it kind of starts off with how he once wrestled a black bear, and that's kind of put him as like the tough, strong dad-like figure that he is. And because of that, he's like revered, and he's like looked highly upon. He started an orphanage, and like Amir is very proud of him, but there's also this feeling of like Amir doesn't feel he's enough for his father. So later on, he talks about how Amir is talking about how he learned more of his religion in school, but Baba doesn't believe in any of that, and then how the only sin that Baba sees is theft. Or lying. Is it lying? Hold on.
I think it's
It's lying because it's a form of theft. It's stealing your right to the truth, or to having a person if you murdered someone. And then Amir kind of highlights how he doesn't want to disappoint his father, because he prefers poems. He can't stand going to the fights and games and things like that. When a person gets trampled, he can't stand that, and he cries. And later on, Baba even says himself, like, he doesn't even think Amir is his son. If he had not seen it happen, he would have never thought Amir was his son. Okay, and then chapter 4, we learn how Ali and Hassan made it into their family. So Baba grew up with Ali, and then Ali had Hassan, so now Hassan is growing up with Amir. And that happened because of he was just brought, like, somebody killed his parents, Ali's parents, and so Baba's parents then raised Ali with him. So then, since Amir and Hassan are growing up together, they do everything together. They have a whole routine where they'll go read together, and Amir will read to Hassan since Hassan doesn't know how to read or write. And then sometimes Amir will go completely off track with his story, and that's when Hassan enjoys the story the most. And then Amir eventually writes his own story, and when he wants to go take it to his father to show it off, his father doesn't even want to read it. And then, but Rahim comes in and saves the day. He reads it and says it's wonderful, and then Hassan reads it and says it's wonderful.
So that kind of gives us like really into Baba, because it shows just how different him and Amir are, and how much Amir wants Baba to accept him, and how he just won't do it because he's not like him.
Yeah.
And it's sad because he like thinks that it's his fault that like his dad doesn't like him, because he like took his mom away when she died when she gave birth to him, which I think is really sad. Like, and he made that clear a few times. Like he would say like,
I killed his wife.
Yeah.
He sees it as that.
And it's also ironic because he says, I killed his wife, and that's like what Baba thinks is like the worst sin, is like taking like
Theft.
like taking someone's life. And his son has done that. Not his fault.
He's committed the greatest sin in his eyes.
Yeah, about the story with his father, this thing, it's on 31. He goes in and he's like, I told him I'd written a story, and then Baba nodded and gave a thin smile that conveyed little more than feigned interest. Well, that's very good, isn't it? He said. And then nothing more. He just looked at me through the cloud of smoke. I probably stood there for a minute, but to this day, it was the longest minutes of my life. Seconds plodded by, each separated from the next by an eternity. Air grew heavy, damp, almost solid. I was breathing bricks. Baba went on staring me down and didn't offer to read.
So by just like describing like his like how heavy he's breathing and how nervous he is, it's just showing how much he wants his father to accept him and how he knows he won't. And
Yeah, he doesn't even feel comfortable around him. He's just so nervous.
Yeah, that's just, I think that just shows like the first of the many conflicts that like he like experiences internally, because then he like also wants his dad to like see him as like a stronger person, because he doesn't have his athleticism and everything, so he wanted to win the kite competition and everything, and when he does, he feels so proud of himself. So it kind of just shows how he's always seeking his father's approval, and like he'll do anything for that. Like he was more like, he realized that like what he had done to like Hassan and like not stepping in to help him, how like that ended up being okay because it got him to be closer with his father. So, which is kind of sad, just because like I feel like Hassan has been there for him more than his dad.
So chapter 5 begins with like the sound of war, guns, and bombs going off, and Amir, Hassan, and Ali are all together, and Baba is not home. And at one point, Amir mentions that he sees Hassan hugging his father, and Amir says, "But I'm not jealous," which kind of shows that he probably is jealous. And then Baba returns home safely, and Amir's kind of happy that the war happened because it shows that his father was worried about him, and he's never felt that before. And then Hassan is worried that he will have to leave because of the war going on, but Amir tells him that he won't, and they go and climb their tree. But on the way, the bully Asef stops them and starts to talk about how he loves Hitler and wants the new leader of Afghanistan to like listen to him about all of Hitler's great ideas. And he believes that the Hazaras, which is what Hassan is, are polluting the country and they should be eliminated like Hitler. And then Hassan threatens him with a slingshot, and Asef backs down, but he says that he'll come back for them. And then we find out that it's Hassan's birthday, and Baba always gives Hassan a present, and this year the present is a plastic surgeon to fix his hair lip. And Amir notes that by the time the scar from the surgery healed, Hassan stopped smiling. And then in chapter 6, they begin to talk about the winter kite fighting tournament, and that's when there's no school and all the kids buy kites and have a fight with them, and whoever has the last kite wins. And Amir loves this time because his father loves the kite flying tournament, and they're always closer during the winter. And Hassan is the kite runner who runs and gets the kites when the kites get cut down. And he talks about how Hassan is just the best kite runner that there's ever been. And and then when they're waiting to catch a kite one time, Amir teases Hassan saying, "If I told you to eat dirt, would you?" And Hassan was like, "Yes, he would." And Amir feels bad because he's been playing with him all this time. And then it ends kind of with Baba telling Amir that he thinks this is the year that they're going to win.
So in chapter 7, it starts off with Amr eating breakfast, and Hassan recounts a dream that he had the night before, and they were at some lake, and there was like a monster in the lake, and then Amr was like, "I'm going to jump in it." So he like kind of showed how he was like being brave and everything, and he told him this on the day of the kite flying tournament. So when Hassan and Amr went like out, they were like, Amr became like really scared and everything, so he started to worry, but Hassan like was reassuring towards him, and he said there's no monster, just a beautiful day. And then Amr ended up winning the kite flying competition, but the second place kite is considered to be the greatest prize, so Hassan ran after the blue kite, and when he did that, he ran into trouble. Amr ended up taking his kite home, and then he went to find Hassan because he'd been gone for the majority of the day, and he eventually found him in an alley, and Asef, Wally, and Kamal were all cornering him, and Amir Saul, or however you pronounce his name, he ended up seeing the blue kite in his hand, and so it kind of just showed how he was like willing to like be hurt and injured by these people because he was going to stick to the promise that he made Amr. And Hassan was trying to defend himself, so he tried to throw a rock at Asaph, but the boys threw him to the ground, and Amr interrupted the narrative with a few memories and a dream. So the first memory that he had was Ali reminding him and Hassan that they like fed from the same breast, so it just kind of shows like their relationship and how they are so close. And the second memory was about the two of them, Hassan and Amr, going to a fortune teller, and the fortune teller was like giving a coin, and he took the coin from Hassan and he read his palm and face, but then he wasn't like happy with what he had read, so he was disturbed and he gave Hassan his coin back. And then there was a dream where Amr was lost in the snow, and somebody like reached out to him, and we kind of assumed that it was Baba, and they were in a summery, light-filled field. And then he like switched the narrative back to what was actually happening, and he went to describe the alley, and in the alley, like Wally and Kamal didn't want to participate in whatever was happening, so it kind of shows how even though they're friends with him, they're still like scared of him. And Asef, like, he raped him, and sorry, it's just really sad.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
and then Amr switched to a future tense, and that was the feast of, I don't know how to pronounce, Ida Korban. This commemorates like a sacrifice of Isaac, and each family sacrifices a sheep. And then Ali, Baba, Hassan, and Amr watched the mullah cut the sheep's throat, and this like resonates with Amr. And then they transition back to the alley scene where Amr has his final chance to step in, but instead he decides to run away. And it just shows how maybe he's not the friend that Hassan thought he was. And Amr and Hassan end up meeting near the alley, but Amr doesn't tell Hassan that he was there and saw everything that happened. And they kind of don't really speak about what happened. Hassan wants to tell Amr, but he hands him the blue kite instead, and then they walk back to the house. And Hassan now limps, and his voice is like his voice cracked when he was talking to Amr. And when Amr comes to Baba's with the kite, Baba hugs Amr, and then he cries. And this was just like an important chapter all around, because before this, like all of them were like leading up to this, and then after it was probably going to deal with the aftershocks of what happened in this chapter.
So, an important setting,
Yeah, 35.
chapter 5.
It talks about like the gunfire and like everything that's going on, but then it kind of just like stops. So it kind of just shows how maybe like things in Afghanistan, they're just like very unsteady with what's happening, and like one day everything will be fine, the next day.
Yeah. And this setting like really emphasizes Amir's jealousy of Hassan and his relationship with his father, how he wishes his father was there to comfort him, and he was happy that this happened because his father was worried about him, and he never could tell if he is or not.
Yeah, and during the gunfire, when they hear the gunfire, Hassan starts crying, and so Ali pulls him in for a hug, and Amir makes the note of saying to himself, later I wouldn't tell myself I hadn't felt envious of Hassan, not at all. And this just kind of shows how much Amir wishes for that close bond, close relationship with his father. And he sees that relationship, the relationship he wants with his father right in front of his eyes, but it's between Hassan and Ali. And so I think Amir definitely he's jealous of the relationship Hassan has with his father, because Amir does not have that with Baba.
Something else I noticed when you were summarizing yours, how during the whole rape scene, he kept like going back through time and going to different times and using those memories to kind of block out what he was seeing and to kind of think, Hassan has done all these things for me. I've gone through so much with him, and like I can't do anything for him right now. And it just shows his guilt and how he's very conflicted and how he's feeling.
Yeah, and at that point I wrote down like it kind of showed his ethos, because like even though like he didn't necessarily do what he probably should have done, like the right thing, he was like admitting to the fact that he like ended up not stepping in, and you can see that he was really struggling with them. So it kind of makes him credible, because he's able to admit to his faults.
Yeah, I agree with that because I feel like at the time when you're reading it, the scene, you want to scream at Amir and say, do something, but then you remember, he's just another 12-year-old kid, and he's witnessing this awful, just terrible, crime, and he's paralyzed with fear. So I can understand why he didn't do anything. Obviously, he should have done something after everything Hassan's done for him, but, yeah, like you said, it gives him ethos because, he's a person, a 12-year-old kid who's seeing this awful thing happen to his friend. He almost didn't know what to do.
Yeah.
It also it gives him ethos, but at the same time it makes him unreliable because he says it to himself, but he doesn't say it to anyone else.
Mm-hmm.
So you cannot really trust what because we would be someone else. So if what he's saying is true, it's hard to believe him, because of that. Well, we have to talk about theme real quick. The feelings that Amir has towards all the other characters, he kind of feels like he's above Hassan, but below his father. So
Maybe
it's the social
identity,
class
identity and rising power.
Yeah.
He wants to be as high up with his dad, but he's not.